Yourself?
A very good afternoon to one and all.
Yourself?
A very good afternoon to one and all. My name is Srishti Bhatt. I'm from Delhi. I did my BTech in Computer Science from Delhi University, and currently I'm an officer trainee in Indian Information Services.
You're already working in Indian Information Service. Which year did you qualify?
Sir, last year I'm undergoing training right now.
You are undergoing training. Okay, so you have not seen the working of Indian bureaucracy from close quarters.
Sir, I'm getting acclimatized to it.
Getting acclimated. Now tell me, why there is a negative perception of bureaucracy in our society?
So one of the prime reason is less outreach, because people feel that they are not easily accessible, which creates a perception that yes, there is high-headedness amongst the bureaucracy. So second is lack of transparency and responsiveness, which again connects to my first.
Kids themselves are concerned. If you ask me, they suffer from two big problems.
Not call it indecision, because I feel that there is a proper channel.
Another is risk aversion. What is your take on this?
Sir, I will not call it indecision, because I feel that there is a proper channel which leads to delay, and sometimes it can be termed as red tapeism. Sir, there are two types of errors that can happen: the bona fide and the mala fide error. Because of this, a bureaucrat becomes a little apprehensive that, for instance, there cannot be any legal proceedings against them which can be apprehending their career as well. So this
Do
is the
you
reason for
think
this
that any change is required in the way bureaucrats are trained in our system, or everything is going hunky-dory?
Sir, definitely there is a scope for improvement. One is bureaucrats need to be well versed with the latest technological developments, which can improve governance and reduce risk as well. Sir, second is channelization of the proper channelization, which you talked about, the delays in the decision making. That can be streamlined, connecting to my first point through technology only. And sir, third is we have missions like Mission Karmyogi, which are well in place to make bureaucrats aware about the latest developments as far as even governance mechanisms are concerned.
In the Mission Karmyogi, it is stated that the bureaucrats should work on the principles of role-based positions, not rule-based. What does it convey?
So role-based positions, for example, if a bureaucrat is working under health, whatever that is needed, they should be fluid enough to change according to the situation. When we talk about rule-based administration, it becomes little structured and I would say static. So as per me, there should be a combination of both rule and role-based bureaucracy.
There's a very thin line of demarcation between the rule and the role, isn't it? Role is based on rules only.
Yes, sir.
So how will you ensure, can you break a certain provision or certain rule to play a role-based service?
So there are laws well in place that protect a bureaucrat if there is any kind of diversion from a particular rule, but it is good for the role concerned. So for example, there are protections under the constitution as well. The removal of bureaucrat can be by the authority that has appointed a particular bureaucrat. Similarly, even the courts take into consideration that if there is a particular mistake while carrying out a role which goes against the rule, that is that is reflected and they take it into consideration.
What is going to be your role as a member of Indian Information Service?
So my role as a member of Indian Information Service would be to provide credible information at the right time.
Do you think in the modern age it is possible for you to provide credible information? The social media is being so active. Is it possible for the government?
Yes, sir. The latest IT amendment rules, which happened very recently, they are taking these things into consideration. For example, they have empowered the PIB fact check unit to ensure that the bureaucrats are able to play their role and control any kind of misinformation and disinformation.
What are your views on the current BBC controversy?
Sir, if any kind of journalism is portraying its right of freedom of speech and expression under Article 19, that needs to be well in sync with the journalistic intent of providing information and not misguiding people or infringing national security or international relations of a particular country with other partners. So sir, if BBC's documentary is affecting any of these, then sir, it needs to be curbed.
Okay, thank you.
Srishti, you're basically from Delhi.
Yes.
You can see that you've done graduation in engineering.
Yes, sir.
Graduation in engineering from a commerce college. It's strange. Why you opted for a commerce college to do engineering? There might not even be a mechanical workshop in the college.
Sir, this was a new program under FIUP which came, and wherein my college, being a college of commerce, had already well in place a BSc Computer Science program. So there were labs for transforming it to BTech, and it is AICTE approved.
Oh, that's a technical aspect. Why would an engineering student choose a commerce college to do engineering degree where obviously apart from the mainstream commerce so teachers and other infrastructure and teaching facility will not be available as is available to engineering college students. You could have gone across the road into any one of the main engineering college and get an actual engineering degree.
Sir, even the degree that I have, it is actual. And sir, I went through the college pedagogy and I had seen the labs there. There were two labs. Even for commerce, they have separate computer science lab.
Yeah, but no civil engineering lab, no mechanical engineering lab, which other computer science graduates do get.
Yes, sir. Sir, in our course, we needed a computer science lab, so that was well in place there. So it was also a logistic and transportation issue.
You studied this engineering thing. Tell me, what is GPT and ChatGPT? You're also an IAS officer. It's a good enough threat to IAS officers, ChatGPT.
So first, talking about ChatGPT, this is an application by OpenAI, and it is an artificial intelligence model which is generating ready-made content as per a person's questions concerned.
Can you under the thing? This thing, a BA pass student will tell me. I'm asking an engineering That's right.
Sir, as an engineer,
What is GPT and ChatGPT?
sir, I'm not able to recollect
What
it
are
as
transformers?
generative programming.
No, it's literally transformers. What is transformer in terms of computer science engineering?
Sorry, sir, I'm not able to.
You can look at it. You're not a Delhi person. Delhi, unfortunately, is called rape capital, and obviously the crime against women is not really. It's not really a very nice state of affairs in Delhi. Why is it so? Despite being a national capital and having all the infrastructure available, why crime against women in Delhi are at such a high state? We took sociology, so I'm expecting a sociological perspective.
Sir, sociologically, if we see, Delhi being a metropolitan city, there are more and more cases reporting of the cases, which is actually the transparency that we have in Delhi police. So women empowerment is more in place in the metropolitan city, and girls are more confident to speak out. Sir, second is there are migration. Delhi is a migration capital as well. So people coming from different arenas of the country. So there is cultural indifferentiation, I would say, because of which such incidents they can happen in future as well. Sir, third is there is more women mobility, which can be the reason why girls are exposed to such incidents.
You mentioned about migration, and it's true that usually the migration, the greater chunk is the main migration, but yes, female migration towards Delhi is also there. What are the schemes and other support available for migrant women in Delhi?
So for protection,
For protection, for welfare?
sir, as far as protection is concerned, there is an app called Himmat app for women, and also the Delhi police has initiated a Mahila Shaktikaran program, wherein they are training women in self-defense. And also amongst the areas which are which have more migrant population, there are sensitization programs wherein the government is telling them the rights that are there in place for them. As far as general empowerment of women is concerned, sir, Delhi government has a public transport, which actually adds on to women's safety, I feel, because public transport are more secure compared to private transport. And second, subsidized travel for women, which promotes them to have access to the transport facility. And also, sir, there are Anganwadis in Delhi also and SHG's programs which are helping in women empowerment through economic means.
Okay, last one from me. You're coming from Rohini, right?
Yes.
What do you mean by the word Rohini? Why would any subsidy or an economy be named Rohini?
Sir, culturally, if I see, Rohini is the nakshatra
Okay.
in our culture.
Where is it? Where can we see this nakshatra?
Sir, I'm not aware of the location as such. I think it's a mythological name given to a nakshatra. And sir, also culturally, if I see, Rohini was a spouse of Sri Krishna. Or no, she was the younger sister of Sri Krishna.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay, please. Sorry.
So Steve, you won third prize in journal level Geet Govind Slok Uchcharan competition.
Yes, sir.
That is. So you have, I think, developed in this habit of or liking for proper pronunciation of words and sounds.
Yes, sir, I learned it through my teacher in Sanskrit.
So which part of Vedanga deals with this art?
Pronounce chanting of the... Sir, it is Samved.
What is Vedanga? How many Vedangas are there?
Sorry, sir, I'll read about it.
You love singing classical music. So what has been the contribution of Sufi Khankas in development of music in India?
Sir, the Sufi Khankas have played a very important role in the development of Hindustani classical. For example, the Delhi Gharana was initiated by Amir Khusro ji. And also the Sufi Khankas, they played a very prominent role in the introduction of Khayal system. So initially there were Drupad, but now we sing more of Khayals in music. And also, sir, Bhakti in music. Bhakti, that is an emotion of the Navras that is initiated through the Sufism.
Gandhiji also advocated the role of prayer in public domain. How do you feel that prayer can play a role in public administration, particularly musical prayers?
Sir, one thing of prayer assembly is that it unifies people, brings them together. Even in our school days, we had assemblies. And sir, if you remember, prayer is a form of a meditation. Actually, it increases the focus. And also, music plays a very important role in ensuring mental balance. There have been rags like Rag Tori and all. So they play a very important role in music therapy. So these three things can also help in administration as well.
That's good. Public opinion management was practiced even in ancient and medieval times when there was monarchy. But in democratic countries, in India and other countries, public opinion management is taken as a specialized profession of bureaucrats. As an information officer, you'll also be deployed in that job sometimes. Do you think this is compliant to the democratic values of a Republican democratic country? Management of public opinion.
Yes, sir. In a democracy, people's wish is of the foremost importance. So management of public opinion management, it is important for a bureaucrat to know that a particular policy is in sync with people's expectation, number one. Second, how much are people aware? Depends on their feedback. How much are they getting in return? So third is outcome calculation. For that also public opinion management is of prime importance. And Indian Information Services, we have feedback units that take into consideration that when a particular news is put in place, what is the kind of feedback that we are getting for that? So yes, sir.
Okay. My final question is that even in medieval times, a special technique was used to convey messages, particularly the messages of the state. And can you explain what kind of technique was used and that entire conveyance of the message was very quick?
Sir, I remember one form wherein during the medieval times, I think from Delhi, there was a concept of dark. So they used to travel via horse and disseminate information. The speed of dissemination was tremendous. And I think, sir, that was through a public chain because at that time we were not having any kind of form of telecommunication.
In modern technological parlance, that technique is called what? Is it called relay technique?
Yes, sir, it can be.
And can you expand CDMA? It's implied technique in that.
Sir, I'm not aware of this concept. Can you please elaborate a little?
That is what I want you to do. CDMA.
Sorry, sir.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Srishti, you're from Information Service. Please tell us about information management.
Sir, information management deals with what, how, when, and for whom. So what is to be disseminated? You need to collect the sources. Through sources, you need to collect the information. when a particular information is supposed to get disseminated so that there is greater outreach, for whom it deals with the target audience, for whom, for example, if there is a policy for rural development, there needs to be more transformation through people rather than social media. And if it is talking about urban generation, it can be translated through social media. So this is,
So what can be the steps of information management?
so first is getting a clear, crisp, concise information so that it has a greater impact. It should not be too verbose and it should give preference to what is supposed to get disseminated. So second, the medium of information dissemination. For that, for example, if you're talking about rural India, that needs to be put through panchayat system or SHGs and in their vernacular language. For dealing with people in urban areas, that can be disseminated through AI and information bubbles that we have in place. So these
Okay, you must go through it.
Yes,
Fine.
sir, I will.
The last stage of information management is destruction of the information. Fine. So, is there any process of destruction in government? Destruction of information in government?
Sir, there are archive departments in the government that preserve any important information. They don't destroy it. But sir, I'm not very well aware of the destruction departments in the government.
You will be undergoing some module on information
Okay,
in your curriculum. Yeah. Okay. So my next question is: recently, cabinet has approved Vibrant Village program. What is this program?
So this program is for village development, more specifically in the border areas. So, sir, the prime objective of this scheme is to ensure socio-economic development and also infrastructural development of village dwellers. It is to prevent any kind of security issues of the country.
And how will it be implemented?
Sorry, sir, I'm not.
Okay, fine. What is OECD?
So that's an organization for economic development.
Yeah. So they have released Service Trade Restrictiveness Index. Do you know about this index?
No, sir.
Okay. So they have ranked India at 47. They are at the bottom 5 actually. So what are the reasons of India showing so low?
In the trade services, trade of services.
Trade Restrictiveness Index. It's called STRI. India ranks 47. So what is the reason of India's low ranking?
So one reason could be the duties, high duty tariffs that India has in place, and more emphasis to local products. So that can be taken by the foreign parties as an intervention in their trade, but it is Atmanirbharta for our country. And sir, also there are phytosanitary measures which are well in place. They are for the security of the citizens, but they can be considered as a restriction for outsiders.
Okay, fine. My last question to you: what is this deprivation? What is the meaning of deprivation?
Sir, in economic parlance, it is loss in the value of a particular good over a period of time.
That is depreciation. Deprivation, I'm asking. In sociology,
Yes.
deprived society, deprived community.
Yes,
So what is that deprivation?
Sir, if we talk about social deprivation, that is decline in the mental framework or social network amongst the people. For example, there is a trust deficit between people, or we being a heterogeneous society, there is definitely, we are at the prism of modernization. So because of that, there is deprivation in mindset as well.
Okay, just quick response to this answer, to this question. What principles will you adopt to remove deprivation? Just principles. You don't have to explain it here.
So the prime principle is education. And second principle that should be there in place is giving more importance to civic sense. And third is, sir, building confidence amongst people from different societies to build a social network.
Thank you. Good.
Srishti,
Yes, sir.
India is going to host the G20 summit this year. So, what do you think? What are the challenges for India as president of this summit in 2023?
So challenges in hosting the G20 summit. Number one could be infrastructure. The land availability is
Other
less.
than that,
So second is finance. So
fine. And
third is awareness generation amongst all the sections of society, not just in urban areas.
okay, what about the geopolitical challenges of bringing all these 19 odd countries and European Union together on one platform? Would that be an easier challenge, or would that be a much more difficult challenge than the one you have listed?
So I think India is catering to this challenge very well because India has invited many other countries apart from the 19 that are there, 19 plus 1. So to bring all in one platform for arbitration is something all are looking for. So I don't think so there will be a challenge.
Okay. What about the last summit? Where was it held? G20 in 2022?
So in 2022, I think Indonesia presided.
Yes, in Bali, Indonesia.
Yes, sir.
So did Russian president and US president they were able to come on the same stage?
Sir, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'll read it.
Okay. India has taken a position of taking actually no position on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So, do you think it is wise on our part if we want to be given a seat at the global high table and then we are not taking a stand, not calling a spade a spade? Do you think it goes well with our ambition?
Sir, I think a person who's at the high table plays the role of an arbitrator. And India's stand has been that only. India calls for democratic talks between the two parties. Because sir, if the high table takes one side, then the other side will feel left out. So I think India is well in
So,
place.
even if it is very crystal clear, if it is in black and white, then also we should not take a side. We should always say like goody-goody things.
So we are not saying goody-goody things because there is a national interest in place as well. So Russia has been a very old and a trusted friend for us. And we know that behind Ukraine, there have been Western powers in place. So we need to keep our real politics well in line in this issue as well.
Okay. Recently, the Election Commission has said that even social media should be regulated during the 48-hour period that is that starts once the campaigning ends. Right. In this day of social media, do you think it is putting a lot of administrative burden on officials to ensure compliance with that? And with very negligible benefit, if any. What is your view on this?
Sir, as for me, there is no official burden because this role has been decentralized. There is a new social media wing in every department, be it CBC, be it PIB. which are handling the social media issues. So they are trained in that way.
Don't you see any challenge? Like you can ask people not to campaign in a particular geographical area, but how do you restrict social media access?
So it cannot be restricted. It is going on. But in that phase, there are check units. And I think even EC should now start doing that to put their the model code of conduct well in line so that the 48 hours.
So you feel that there should be some restriction on social media also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There has been some controversy over what is a North Star. Can you tell me what is North Star?
Sir, it is one of the stars of the Saptarishi, and initially it was used for navigation purposes.
Okay. So the Vice President has said that Parliament is the North Star, whereas Chief Justice of India has said that basic structure doctrine is our North Star. So which according to you is the correct interpretation, and what is your reason for that?
So like I said that it is the guiding light. Our country is guided by the Constitution. So I feel the Constitution should be the North Star of the country.
So CGI is right.
Sir, CGI talked about the basic structure, which is actually a judicial innovation. So the Constitution should be the North Star.
Okay. Last question. What is toxic Twitter?
So based on this terminology, I feel that it is something which is creating a mental imbalance amongst people. There has been a rise in the crime against women, which is indulging in toxicity, and also naming and shaming, defamation. So this is something which could be toxic Twitter.
Thank you.
Trustee,
Yes, sir.
as you all know, with G20 around, the issue of beautification of Delhi has caught the attention of the state government and the central government in Delhi. Now you're in charge. So tell me the areas which you will be prioritizing first, and how will you go about it?
So for the beautification of Delhi, the area that I'll be prioritizing is the airport route through which the foreign visitors will be coming. So second are the Central Secretariat region of Delhi, and also prime destinations of tourism. For example, we have CP, we have the INA Delhi Heart region. So these will be the areas.
These are the geographical areas.
Yes, sir.
What I intended to ask the question was on the items which you will receive your attention for beautification of Delhi.
Sir, I will focus more over the heritage of Delhi. For example, Humayun Tomb, Lodi Garden.
That heritage is one part.
Yes, sir. So second is the crafts that are there in Delhi, Saras Hearts, Delhi Heart, then Delhi Heart in Pitampura, so that it helps in the development of the people belonging to the lower income category as well. And they get a more beautiful platform to showcase their talent and skills. And sir, third is Delhi food areas are something I would like to focus more upon because Delhi's cuisine is next to nothing.
Okay, thank you very much. Stay, your interview is over. You may go now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. May I come in, sir?
Sit down, Srishti.
Thank you, sir.
So this is going to be the second interview.
Yes, sir.
In the religion and the cult.
That are right now available in India.
Madam, sir. Yes, come in. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Please be seated. Thank you, sir. Please give a brief introduction about yourself.
So my name is Asad Zubairi, and I was born in the city of Aligarh and brought up there itself. After completing my schooling from Aligarh Muslim University, I went ahead to study mechanical engineering in MNIT, Allahabad and Prayagraj, sir. Thereafter, sir, I worked with an automobile firm called Hero MotoCorp for 1 year. And then, sir, after quitting my job, I've been preparing for civil service examination. And my hobbies include playing percussion instruments, and occasionally, sir, I write blogs on a website called Quora.
Okay. Why did you leave your job?
Sir, though it was a very enriching experience in Hero MotoCorp, but I was trying to manage my studies for the examination as well as job, and I realized that I was not able to do justice to both of these. So I had to.
Okay. So you have worked there for 1 year.
Yes, sir.
Tell me what are the challenges of working in a private sector?
Sir, one of the challenges that I see is that the intense competition because of the large number of engineers in my domain which are coming out. So, sir, getting a good job in our own area of interest is sometimes difficult, sir. So the second one is the hectic nature of the fast world in which we live, because we have to meet targets and sometimes it leads to a lot of stress and overstressed work conditions, sir. So these are two things that I have experienced.
Tell us two good things which you have learned in the private sector, which is not there in the public sector.
And list two things.
Yeah.
So the first one is that while working in the private sector, I realized how even private sector can play a role to make workspaces more inclusive, sir. Because at Hero MotoCorp in my plant, sir, out of 52 people, 46 women were there in the team, and Hero was making conscious effort to increase the women workforce, sir. So, sir, that is one thing that I learned. The private sector can also play a very important role. And so the second thing, sir, is the less hierarchical nature of private sector, sir. Because the very highest of the officers of Hero MotoCorp were, sir, they were approachable to me, and I had very enriching conversations with them, which helped me rise as an engineer in the firm, sir.
You are basically a mechanical engineer, isn't it? Why did you opt for a subject like anthropology when mechanical was already there in the syllabus of UPSC?
Sir, these decisions was actually, sir, two-faceted, sir. The first reason is that I've been studying science since my class 11, but had a keen interest to study other subjects too. So, sir, I was looking at the list, and anthropology was very interesting to me because of its diverse nature. Sir, apart from that, fortunately, my friend was also preparing with the subject, so guidance was available to me.
Could you tell me what is the difference between anthropology and sociology as subjects?
Sir, one basic difference between these two disciplines is that anthropology studies a person across space and time, while sociology studies mostly the group of people, how people react or how a group reacts. Sir. So, sir, that is one of the differences. Apart from that, holism is one thing that anthropology studies very deeply, studying the biological factors, the genetic factors, and then relating them to the factor of society, sir. This is something that anthropology does, which is not so prevalent in sociology.
Do you think that our currency is becoming a global currency, Indian currency?
Sir, with the age of UPI and digital payments that we see, sir, India has reached all laurels in that segment. Sir, I think based on that, like a very recent India-Singapore agreement has also been there. So, sir, rupee is becoming more accepted, especially in the region in India's neighborhood and the extended neighborhood too. Sir, though I think there's a long way to go before the rupee becomes a global currency, but we are on a very.
Do you have any idea with how many countries we have entered into agreement for the payment of Indian rupee?
Sir, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of the exact number of countries, but I know some of the names, sir.
Yes,
A recent agreement with Argentina was established. Sir, we have an agreement with Sri Lanka as well as Maldives, sir.
What are the major items we are importing apart from oil, for which we have to pay in foreign exchange?
Sir, apart from oil, we have a high dependency for fertilizers, sir, as well as ammonia, sir, that we were importing. Sir, apart from that, the API that we import for the pharmaceutical sector. India also needs to develop its own manufacturing facilities, sir, in that segment.
What about defense equipments and electrical hardware goods?
Yes, sir, electrical hardware goods as well as, sir, the goods for solar PV modules, they are being imported. And, sir, regarding the electrical equipment, there is a high import and dependence on China as well, sir.
So what do you know about the Vostro account? How entire payment is regulated?
Sir, I'm sorry, I'll read more about this.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Sir, I'm doing well.
So I can see that you studied from AMU as far as the schooling is concerned.
Sir, my schooling was in Radio Fatima School. It was not in India, sir.
Okay. And you are basically from Aligarh, right?
Yes, sir.
Aligarh played an important role when it comes to education of minorities.
Yes, sir.
What are constitutional provisions for that? About the education and other positive discrimination for minorities?
Sir, a major constitutional provision is lying in Article 30, sir, that says that the minorities they have the right to establish and administer their education institutions, sir. And sir, there's one more provision in this article too, in this article itself, in the clause 2, that when the government is dispersing the funds, the finances, sir, it won't consider or differentiate between state institution or any other non-minority institution and the minority institution, sir. These two provisions in Article 30 are there, sir.
After independence, there was a committee called Sachar Committee, which was established to look into the status of minorities in terms of representation and other development. What were the main recommendation of this committee which were implemented?
Sir, as far as implementation is concerned, sir, I'm not aware of the number of.
Okay, what was the main recommendation otherwise?
Sir, one of the recommendation was that the representation of the minority community, the Muslim community, is less in the public services, and the committee has also given a figure for that, sir. I'm not able to recall that, but it recommended for a reservation, sir, for minorities in the public sector, in the public services, sir. Sir, apart from that, it also pointed out a dual disadvantage that the minorities are facing with respect to education. That is the quality and the quantity of education, sir. Both are not available at the right amount, sir. So these are the two things that I can remember from the committee.
You're from Aligarh, you're a mechanical engineer. Aligarh is known for locks. What exactly is the mechanism of lock? Why some locks are 7 levers and other locks are 5 levers?
Sir, I'm sorry, I'll
You're a mechanical engineer from Aligarh. You never thought of looking into the mechanism of lock? How it works?
Sir, this is an interesting thought and I'll look into it, sir. I've not done that.
You're an anthropology, right?
Yes, sir.
In the development of human species, the use of the engineering stuff, the tools, it started after which stage? I mean, when human body was capable of using tools?
Sir, one of the major stages was that after the development of bipedalism, the hands became free. And when that happened, human beings started using the hands to make more tools, sir. And one thing, sir, that separated human beings from the other organism was the opposable and dexterity of the thumb. So that was very important while using the tools.
And what were the initial simple machines human species started using?
Sir, one of the very first tools that were used stones were being cut into axes, like the pear-shaped axes were used to break the nuts. So that was the first lower Paleolithic tool, sir. So after that, the bones were also being used as tools to hunt. That is related to the osteochondritic cultures, if I'm correct in calling that. So apart from that, going ahead, there were small tools like microliths and some flake tools were also developed, sir.
Staying with anthropology, tell me, what is the difference between a sect and a religion and a cult?
Sir, may I take a minute to think about it? Sir, I have an idea about the difference between sect and religion, sir. On cult, sir, I am not
Okay, tell me about sect and religion.
Sir, religion is a belief, is a system that includes things that are related to the sacred part of the world and not the secular part. So as the scholar Emily Durkheim has defined this. Sir, within the religion there are certain groups, and these groups are known as sects because they practice this religion in a certain way, and they share this in common, sir. So, sir, I think sect are the smaller unit of within a religion, sir, that is present.
You also mentioned that you like writing on Quora.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, what is Web 2.0? Why all these platforms, including Quora, are considered Web 2.0 platforms?
Sir, one of the things that these platforms being known as Web 2.0 is how they are different from the idea of Web 3.0, sir. So these platforms, sir, in this the data is not decentralized. If I am creating a data, if any user is creating a data, we don't have the entire control over it. And that's the difference Web 2.0 from Web 3.0, that in Web 3.0 this data will be decentralized and will be more controlled by the user who generates it, sir.
So if I ask you to tell me what a Quora in Web 3.0 will be like, what will it be?
Sir, it will be more accessible, firstly.
Quora is also accessible.
Sir, it relies on the access of internet to the larger population. Sir, apart from that, the data that I create on the website, it won't be entirely the property of the platform, but it will be my own property too, and I will be able to control of how it will be used, either for advertising purposes or otherwise, sir. So I will be having, or the user will be having more control over the data or the content they generate, sir.
Fine, thank you.
So, thank you so much, sir. Hello, Asad. How are you?
Sir, I'm doing.
Start with your interest, that is percussion.
Yes, sir.
Define percussion instruments.
Sir, percussion instruments are any instruments that a person can hit, rub, or scrape, or shake, and it creates a sound.
Okay.
And there are several kinds of instruments, sir.
Can you give me 5 percussion sounds name?
Sir, I'm not able to understand the question.
Okay, you must read about percussion sounds.
Sir, I will.
Okay, tell us 5 instruments which are being called percussion instruments.
Sir, the very first is that the instrument that I play is drums, the Western drums, and it has different parts like the snare drum, the tom-toms.
Okay, drum is one.
So the second one is cajon, the Peruvian instrument. So the third one is djembe, which is in a South African instrument, sir. Sir, apart from that, there's an instrument called congo. So that is the fourth one that I can recall. Sir, a shake instrument from Brazil called kashishi. Sir, apart from that, when you consider the Indian instrument, there are several like the kanjira is there, sir, mridangam,
Okay,
and
fine. Is piano a percussion instrument?
yes, sir. It's interesting that piano is also a percussion instrument.
Okay, good. Okay, you're from AMU. You studied in Aligarh Muslim
Yes,
University.
sir.
And when was it established?
Sir, it was established as a school in 1875 as MAO college. After that, sir, as a university, it was established in 1920 when the Act was passed.
And you must be knowing about the founder of AMU.
Yes, sir.
What's his name?
Sir, it's Syed Ahmad Khan, sir.
Okay, tell us his role in empowerment of poor.
Sir, one of the major role that he played at that time is providing the education and more scientific outlook to the minority or the religion, the Muslim religion, Muslim population, sir. After the aftermath of 1857, sir. So that is, he identified that once we educate the poor, their thought process will change and they can rise in the society as well. So that is one thing that he did was to provide education to poor Muslims, and that is why the institution was initially established to give a more scientific flip to the society, the poor Muslim society, sir. So I think that contributed to the overall development as well as poverty elevation, sir.
Okay, fine. AMU was in news because of a professor called Srinivas Ramchandra Siras. What was the controversy?
Sir, the controversy it was very unfortunate that the professor committed suicide, and the issue came up in the media as well. As to the reasons of why he committed suicide were attributed to his identity, the way he identified in himself as a homosexual person. And sir, that was being contested. That from within the university there were some comments that were made, which were very unfortunate, and that's why the controversy was raised, sir.
Okay. What are your views on same-sex marriage?
Sir, as a student of anthropology, when we study the marriage, then there are several kinds of marriage, and even same-sex marriage is sir, a kind of marriage that is not a very new concept, but is being practiced in the tribes since a very long time. So, sir, I think, sir, within the ambit of marriage, there is a definition and space for same-sex marriages too.
Okay, fine. Let's go to the international arena. What is this Taiwan-China issue and its impact on our country?
Sir, China sees Taiwan as a part of it, and sir, that is one thing, point of contention between Taiwan and China, that Taiwan claims to be a democratic and independent country and it wants to protect its sovereignty. Sir, however, because of the attitude of China in the Indo-Pacific and the South China Sea, it's a worry that China may take over Taiwan or may start an offensive against Taiwan with the likes of what Russia has done in Ukraine, sir. So that is the current worry that Taiwan and the greater community has. So the impact on India of this issue is that firstly, the India has not been able to establish a diplomatic relation with Taiwan because of this contest issue. So apart from that, Taiwan is also a hub of semiconductor production. So if such thing happened, that then the semiconductor supply chain in the entire world as well as in India would be impacted, sir. And also India has its own issues on the border with China. So sir, that makes it all the more complex.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, you got benefited with the scheme that you have written in your draft, that is Nai Udan.
Yes, ma'am.
What is Nai Roshni?
Ma'am, Nai Roshni was a scheme that was implemented in the UT of Jammu and Kashmir, sir, by the government, and it's there to uplift the girl students there and to educate them, and if they want the coaching opportunities for
And what is Nai Manzil?
Ma'am, Nai Manzil, ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm not able to recall.
Okay, can you tell me what are the other schemes for minorities that are right now available in India?
Ma'am, one of the schemes is the pre and post matric scholarship that the government is running. Apart from that, there is a scheme called Ustad to identify the artisans and support them. Ma'am, apart from that, the recent ODOP scheme is also identifying many small communities from minority sector who are producing things like bangles in Firozabad, ma'am, and they're supporting them. And these are three that I can recall at the moment.
Okay. Recently, UP had the Global Investor Summit.
Yes, sir.
The most amount of investment that was attracted was by the Noida, which happens already to be the most developed district of UP. Why do you think that the developed district of UP is being developed at the expense of the other areas and districts?
Ma'am, one of the factors that pushed Noida to grab a large amount of fund was the nature of industries that is present there. The growing electronic industry as well as the industry of information technology that is present. So, ma'am, I think that was one of the major reasons. And ma'am, I have information about the very high investment in the renewable sector that has also been done in the Bundelkhand region, as well as a very large amount of investment in the solar energy parks that is being done, which I think Madam is just second to the what is being done in Noida. So ma'am, I think the investment has been done in as far as the decentralization of investment is concerned, but it's higher in Noida because of nature industries there.
Okay, there was this proposal of Yamuna City also. Are you aware of it? What is Yamuna City that will be developed in UP?
Ma'am, I have read about it, but I'm not able to reflect at the moment.
Okay, no problem. It's seen that one of the most number of wetlands that are found in India happen to be in Uttar Pradesh. What is the reason to have so many wetlands in UP? And second, what are the various things that government is doing for the preservation of wetlands?
And the increased number of wetlands in UP is a recent phenomenon that is being identified in the Ramsar Convention. The reason for their existence is the very diverse river system that the UP has. The major river of Ganga and its tributaries like the river of Yamuna is there, and its own tributaries are there. So there's a very dense system of the Himalayan rivers in their mid segment, ma'am. So because of that, the wetlands usually develop because of the diverse or the very delicate river system that is there. Ma'am, on the conservation part, under Ramsar Convention, a lot of wetlands are being identified. Like recently, ma'am, the nearby from my district, the Narora stretch was identified as Upper Ganga Front, ma'am.
Okay, one is Ramsar Convention. Apart from that, what are the government recent steps and things to conserve wetlands?
And there was a scheme that I read about called as Wetland Mitras, in which the community was being identified as Wetland Mitras. And apart from that, I am not able to recall it.
Okay, no problem. My last question to you. Recently, the Supreme Court has given directions for the election of appointment of Election Commission of India. What do you think is happening right now in India with respect to judiciary and parliament, and where do you think this tussle between judiciary and parliament is leading to? Because once you have issue on NJAC and then you have issue on ECI, is it really strengthening our democracy or is it going downhill?
One of the major features that is present in our system is the system of checks and balances between the three pillars of government, the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. And the problem that we see occurring is that the legislature thinks that the judiciary is practicing something called as judicial overreach. However, the judiciary sees it as judicial activism, ma'am. So in that regard, there have been some instances when judiciary has unfortunately been in spaces in which was an expertise of legislature, ma'am. And on the contrary, the requirement of judicial activism is also there. So I think it's a intricate issue. However, going ahead with the kind of dialogue and the debate that we have in the nurturing democracy of India, and I think it's only going to add to the democracy and not decrease it.
Questioning or calling into question the basic structure of constitution, do you really think it's going to add to it or strengthen the democracy?
Ma'am, as the basic structure doctrine itself is an evolving doctrine. So if the comments have been made by any part of the government, I feel that these comments can be taken for the constructive criticism if there is any, and if there's something that should not be implemented, then I think that it should not.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Asad,
Yes, sir.
you have worked in Hero Motors, right?
Yes, sir.
So India and the European Union, they are yet to conclude free trade agreements, right? And the automobile sector is one of the sticking points. Do you know about it?
Sir, I've read about the problem of export of automobiles to the European countries, which is not very much being facilitated, sir. That was one of the sticking points, sir.
Okay. See, recently we see a closer relation between India and Egypt, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me, what are the imperatives? What are the reasons that Egypt is trying to come closer to India?
Sir, one of the reasons is that in the current situation, Indo-Pacific is growing in importance for every country in the world, and Egypt being one of the largest country in the African Union, sir, India it becomes all the more important because India sees it as its extended neighborhood, and Egypt sees the similar cooperation from India. So apart from that, as India is posing itself as a voice of global South, and sir, Egypt is a very large country of Africa which represents the voice of Africa too. So sir, I think the cooperation that Egypt is looking in India is one of these on these lines too. So apart from that, India's image as a net security provider in the region, and how India has reacted to the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief programs of India during the COVID or even before that. So I think that puts India's credentials as a country of something that other countries can depend upon. And so I think that is these three are the reasons that I can think of at the moment.
Okay. Is there any repercussion of Russian-Ukraine conflict on Egypt that is, actually forcing it to come closer to countries like India?
Sir, one of the factors I see is the problem in the supply chain of food grains. Because Africa as a nation, it suffers from the low agricultural productivity, and it was heavily dependent on the places like Russia and Ukraine for the import of fertilizer as well as for the import of food grains. And so India being a country which is a large exporter of agricultural products like wheat, so these countries like Egypt and the other African countries too can depend upon India for this, even after the effect of Russia-Ukraine war.
Okay. In your def, you have mentioned that you would seek to join Indian Foreign Service, and you have given the highest order of preference to it. So when we deal with Africa, right, in general we deal with the entire continent in a comprehensive way. Comparatively, with if you look into our engagements with European Union countries like, for example, France, Germany, so it's more of bilateral engagement. But when it comes to Africa, it's more of comprehensive. Why is it so?
Sir, one of the issues that makes Africa different from the European countries is that a lot of small African countries are riddled with a lot of political instability that is present. And so because of that political instability, a lot of projects that are announced by the countries like India and Japan are doing the third country investment in Africa. They may not bear fruit, sir, if we do not engage with the country grouping of African Union as a whole, sir. So, sir, I think that is one. So, apart from that, a lot of small nations in Africa, they are not so affluent in the sector like education, in their economy as well. So, even Africa itself sees its voice in African Union more than it sees its voice in bilateral negotiations, sir. So, I think these are the reasons of why the countries seek to engage with African Union more than the bilateral relations, sir.
Okay, I said yesterday there was meeting between foreign ministers of India and China in New Delhi. Okay, and both of the ministers, they reiterated the position of their respective countries. India said that there should be change in the border. Okay, dispute. No. And China says that no, let us keep the border dispute aside and let's cooperate on other areas. So, in both countries, which one is more correct?
Sir, the stand that India has taken on the border disputes, as well as the relation with China, sir, I think that stand is more correct because as it was said by the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar too, that until the relations at the border are normal, the relations in other segments like economic relations and cultural relations cannot come to normalcy. And so recently he has also called the relation between India and China as abnormal. So I think in this regard, until there is the decreased offensive from China on the border, so I think other segments like economic cooperation, sir, may not prosper. So the stand of India is justified on that segment, sir.
Okay. My last question to you is: in your draft, you have mentioned each one teach one initiative.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So tell me something about the primary education in India and the suggestions. Basically, most importantly, that what suggestion would you give to improve primary education in India?
Sir, one of the major infrastructure that we have for primary education is the Anganwadi schools that are running in India. Sir, and the basic issues that these schools face is that, sir, though the government also is doing enough to supply, like for example, the scheme of midday meal scheme is there. So, however, the demand on the student side, because when he or she goes home, there's an issue that the parents are not so educated, and the child does not feel so motivated to study, and the basic attraction to come to school becomes the midday meal rather than the studies, sir. So, I think this is one change or the behavioral change that is very much required in the Indian population, and the government has to take stand on it through increasing its outreach to the parents as well. So, the second thing that I see is the government is making efforts through the NEP 2020 to increase the stress on mother tongue as the basis of education. Because when we in my college were part of each one teach one initiative, a lot of students were struggling with reading the English books. However, sir, they were very fluent in Hindi language or the language that they have as their mother tongue. So I think this is as a second point will help to improve the primary education, sir. And so the third and last one is to increase the investment, sir, that is being called out since a very long time in the education sector, to increase the infrastructure, to make more toilets, to train the teachers well. And so I think these are the few that I can recall at the moment. Thank you so much, sir.
What do you mean by CBDC?
So CBDC stands for Central Bank Digital Currency.
So when UPI is already there in place, what is the need to go for CBDC?
Sir, there's a difference between UPI and CBDC. For example, UPI is a digital mode to transfer the money that exists as a legal tender of paper money in banks, sir. However, CBDC forms a kind of a currency that is present in a digital form, not only as a legal tender.
Is it a cryptocurrency?
Sir, though the technology that is being used behind CBDC is not out in the public domain yet, however, sir, it is being speculated that it is based on the cryptography protocol, sir.
Which agency regulates CBDC?
Sir, the Reserve Bank of India.
Thank you very much. Your interview is over, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sit down, sir. Sir, this is your second interview at the UPSC.
Yes, sir.
Last year, first was the last year, no?
Yes, sir.
How much marks did you get?
Sir, I scored 165 marks in the
165. It's not a bad marks, it's a good marks, but you are capable of getting much more.
So I hope to score better this time.
Yeah. So how about your mains examination?
Sir, it went well, better than last time this year, sir. Last year I could not do good at the general studies paper, so that's why then I missed the final list by around 10 marks.
10 marks. I think this time, God willing, you should be through the civil services.
I hope
because
so.
you are a wonderful candidate, I must tell you. A very mature boy, and you can speak your mind. That is the biggest quality in you.
Thank you so much.
So very stable person, and with honesty of purpose, which is very important for a prospective civil servant. And you ensure that you do whatever you knew, you only spoke about that. Whatever you didn't know, you candidly admitted that you don't know. That is how it should be. Because it is a test of your personality. Your personality, various aspects of your personality will be seen while asking questions. And the first and foremost quality is your personal integrity. That is very important. That you have maintained. That is very important. Second is balanced views, balance of judgment, neutral views. You maintain that also. That was wonderful. So, and your communication skill is excellent. You could speak whatever you wanted to speak with clarity and with confidence. So, no problem. So, you had all the qualities, and you were non-argumentative also, didn't get into argument with the board members. These are the qualities of a prospective civil servant. So, you are bang on these qualities. So, 165, if you ask me, it is just not acceptable for a person like you. You should be getting in the range of 180 to 200. As a minimum, you should be getting. So, this time I think coming to how was today's experience, you tell me?
Sir, it was good, sir, but I think, sir, there is one thing that I experienced that when I start the interview, I take some 2 or 3 questions to get in the mode of speaking, because towards the end, I tend to give better answers as compared to what I give towards the beginning, sir. So that is one observation there.
That's what we also observed. Initially, you were slightly tentative, but gradually you came to your
terms, and then you came out with your ideas freely and frankly. That is very good. So, what questions will we ask? How questions will we ask? Nobody can give you this thing on that. But your first preference is foreign service.
Yes, sir.
So, expect a lot of questions related to our international relationship with many countries. So, starting from Pakistan to Afghanistan to Nepal to Sri Lanka to Russia, Ukraine, America, and G20 is happening.
Yes, sir.
And Quad and all that. So, and make up your mind on these issues, what I'm supposed to be telling beforehand, so that you don't falter there, because these are expected questions from you. And how are you going to represent our country? What is the role of an IFS officer? How does he represent India? What are the interests which he has to look into while representing the country? All those issues, and some general issues like who is a high commissioner, how is different from an ambassador, and all the stuff like that. So that is when you are a product of AMU. So Sir Syed Ahmed, some questions are likely to be asked about his reforms which he carried out, and more on him and his philosophy, and with that of the philosophy of his contemporaries in the country. So some kind of questions you should expect. You are a mechanical engineer, maybe some basic questions on mechanical engineering also could be asked. Then mechanical anthro, all those. Anthro, we try to, because the time is only 25 to 30 minutes. So which direction your interview will go, nobody can guarantee you. But anthropology basics, you update your basics. And generally what is happening in the country, around the country, and you are from the Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh is, the trajectory is going high, Uttar Pradesh. So look at the various schemes launched by the government of India and also the government of Uttar Pradesh on various aspects of our working, and more emphasis on your financial inclusion, your innovation, and in case of Uttar Pradesh, infrastructure and industry. So we try to ask you a question why certain districts are given higher priority than the other one, how you want to bridge the gap and all that. Those kind of questions may be asked. Recently, this global summit was also held. Read about that also. What are the outcomes of that global summit? Otherwise, an excellent candidate, Asad. And this time, hopefully, it should be the list of successful candidates, maybe at a fairly high rank.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
All the best to you.
Thank you,
All
sir.
the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
You studied from a school called St. Xavier School. What are JCS?
The French and British applied the policy of subsidiary alliance to many Indian princely states. Do you think that they have applied this policy to other countries also?
You play football. Yes, sir. Why football is not as much as popular as cricket in India?
You also mentioned that you wanted to become a writer someday. And in fact, I can see that your father is a journalist.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, if there's a historical truth, there's also something called post-truth. What is post-truth? Yes, please do.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir.
Good afternoon. Take your seat. How are you?
Very well.
Okay. Okay. You are Siddharth Shukla. Siddharth, will you prefer English as your medium of interview?
Yes, sir.
Good. Siddharth, you must have noticed that we have taken adequate care when it comes to COVID, and we have taken many steps. And one of the steps is that we have kept your chair at adequate distance, so you're at a safe distance from anybody in this room.
Yes,
right? Another advantage of it is that you can choose to remove your mask because you're at a safe distance, and you will be feeling better without mask, right? Would you like to remove?
Yes, sir.
Please do. So you're comfortable?
Yes, sir.
And you yourself are not showing any symptoms?
No, sir.
You're vaccinated or not?
I'm vaccinated, sir.
You're vaccinated. Fine, then Siddharth, let us start. To begin with, I want you to introduce yourself to the board members.
Sir, I'm Siddharth Shukla. I was born at Azamgarh, Uttar Pradesh. I had my early childhood and education in Northwest Delhi, St. Xavier School, to be proper. I am a graduate from History Honours from Delhi University, Khalsa College. Since then, I have been preparing for civil services examination. This is my second attempt, and here I am, sir.
Okay, Siddharth. So you're basically from Delhi, right?
Yes, sir.
You have considered UP as your home district?
Yes, sir.
You've studied in Delhi, you have always lived in Delhi, so you're more of a Delhi person.
Yes, sir.
And you have studied from Delhi University.
Yes, sir.
History Honours, right? So you've studied from a school called St. Xavier School.
Yes, sir.
What are Jesuits?
The Jesuit is an order of Christianity. They emerged in Portugal around Spain. Jesuits are an order of Christianity that spread. They are tasked with spreading Christianity in the eastern part of the world. Sir Francis Xavier was the founder of the Jesuit order. He, along with Saint Loyola of Assisi, they traveled a vast distance from India, Japan, China, and they established missionary schools for spreading the religion of Christianity, sir.
Okay, and so basically it's about spreading Christianity.
Yes, sir. They are
What
missionaries.
exactly Jesuits do nowadays? Are they sticking to conversion or they are doing something else also?
Sir, the Jesuits have a chain of schools and hospitals in various parts of the Eastern Hemisphere as well as Western Hemisphere. So their aim is to convert people because they want to spread the religion of Christianity, but they do a lot of charitable works, and they are not overtly converting people to say, sir. They are doing a lot of developmental works, a lot of human development works. My experience in studying in a Jesuit institution have been very good, sir.
It's been good. So you're still Hindu?
I'm still a Hindu, sir.
Okay, Siddharth, if I look at your this DAF, a basic thing that came into my mind is that you never wanted to be an administrative officer. You wanted to be a uniformed officer. Is that true?
No, sir, I wanted to be an administrative officer.
So why you appeared in CDS so many times?
Sir, I appeared in CDS because of some circumstances due to which I have to go for a government job immediately after my graduation, that I have to have some job. But I always wanted to be an administrative officer, sir. My father prepared for civil service examination, and it was said from childhood that I have to become an IAS officer, and that was that.
In our country, usually it is the father in the society that decide what a young person should be doing rather than the person himself discovering it. When will you discover that what you want to be?
Sir, I discovered, I thought about what I want to be when I left school, and I thought about that I would like to be a writer, but I left that dream around some time, and I thought that the best.
We'll come back to this writing thing, but since you studied history and history honors, to be precise, from Delhi University, tell me what exactly is the understanding of meaning of history when it comes to, say, historians like Collingwood.
Historians like?
Collingwood, you studied Collingwood or not? E.H. Carr?
No, sir, I am not studied sir.
How many books, history books you have studied?
I've studied a lot of history books. I've studied the history of Far East, and I've studied the history of United States of America, of modern
I'm
West.
talking about historiography.
E.H. Carr has defined what is history in some terms. I have read that essay of Carr, I believe, sir.
Yes.
In which he says that history is learning about historical truth from an objective point of view. What historical truth? What is truth?
So, I'm thankful that you mentioned historical truth. You must have read in yesterday's newspaper that Government of India has come out with the advertisement saying that they are revisiting the historical truth of our country, especially the northern India. What exactly is the problem, the current historical truth that we have studied, you have studied, that government is not easy about?
Sir, history has evolved like all other social science subjects. Now, sir, we see that history evolved from a nationalist perspective to a Marxist perspective to the post-Marxist perspective or subaltern perspective. Some people in our political elite or the political class believe that history is written from a political point of view and the histories of some marginal communities or some major communities is neglected. They believe that history was written for a political purpose and now they intend to correct that problem, if there is any. I believe, sir, the history that we have read, the history that is taught in the NCERT is any government institution is up to a standard very good. But we can always look for reforms or improvement in any social science.
Since you mentioned historical truth, and you also mentioned that you wanted to become a writer someday, and in fact, I can see that your father is a journalist.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, if there's a historical truth, there's also something called post-truth. What is post-truth?
So we are presently living in the so-called post-truth era, in which truth has become a very subjective thing. No one is looking at truth as an objective phenomenon, but everyone wants their own version of truth. So in our age, everything is contested. There is no facts or there is no objective definition of anything. We have people with certain views who contradict everything. So we are living in a post-truth era in which truth itself has become a contested terrain. We cannot definitely say that this is the truth or this is what we consider as a.
Why do we need truth at all? If narratives can work, then why do we need truth at all?
Because, sir, as Nietzsche said, if nothing is true, then everything is possible. If we have no consensus among ourselves that this is a good value, truth is a good value, honesty is a good value, then how would we arrange our livelihood? What would be good and what would be bad? Then everything is possible. If there is nothing true, then everything is false. Then how do we define our life? How do we say that this is a good thing to do or this is a bad thing to do if nothing is true? So truth is the basis on which humanity and our cooperation is built on, our civilization is built on.
Fine, Siddharth, thank you. So,
Siddharth, India is having a very long coastline.
Yes, sir.
But unlike the Japanese or Chinese or Europeans or Americans, Indians have not done well in seafaring business. They have not traveled far and wide through sea.
Yes.
How, as a student of history, you have looked at this question? What could be the reasons?
Sir, India's seafaring history has some good phenomena as well, sir. We have the imperial Cholas who were very good at seafaring. Their navies used to have might in the Southeast Asian countries as well as Sri Lanka and Maldives were their colony at some time, we can say. Now, we have not been a good seafaring country because our empires have been built in the north, in regions which were very far away from the sea. And the southern part of our country, or the southern peninsula, has not seen the emergence of lost empires other than Vijayanagar and Cholas, who were good at seafaring. Another thing has been our neglect of navy. Any great power that emerges in the north of India, they consider themselves to be rulers of North India or the India proper as well. They did not want to expand themselves to faraway places. And the trade that our country carried on was primarily carried by traders and monks and monasteries used to widen our sphere of influence rather than political power.
So the French and British applied the policy of subsidiary alliance to many Indian princely states. Do you think that they have applied this policy to other countries also?
So subsidiary alliance policy in effect was the meaning that we are having an alliance with the political elite of a region. The political power in, say, Mysore or say Hyderabad has a policy with the British that they will station their forces there and they will defend them. In South American or American colonization, we see that the Spanish power and the Portuguese power, they developed compradors in those countries that were part of the elite that used to cooperate with the colonial powers. So a sort of subsidiary alliance system was used in faraway regions. Even in China, we see the concessions,
What benefits the princely states derive from the subsidiary alliance?
in the long run, none, sir. In the short run, they can carry on their political power in the limited sphere that the resident power allowed them. The British or the French, they used to station in the princely state, which had subsidiary alliance. He was all powerful, but he gave some powers such as internal affairs and who would you appoint as a noble, who would you appoint as a military aristocrat. That was given to the princely state, but in the long run, they were fattened like oxen and devoured at the right time.
We claim equality with America today. Do you think that we as also enjoy equal power?
This is in a historical perspective. After 1991, we are living in a unipolar world in which the US is the global hegemon. The US can go and invade Iraq, the US can go and invade Afghanistan, and the world will look at a distance. But even if we change the status of a state that is part of India since our independence, we have to give a lot of answer in the international forums and to international powers. So to say, sir, that we have political equality with the US in international affairs, is chimerical.
Do you think that we have accepted many American companies in Indian economy under their political pressure?
So
Like Twitter and Facebook and Walmart and Amazon.
we see, sir, that the 1991 reforms were to some extent shaped by pressure from US and US-based institutions such as IMF and World Bank. As of now, we see, sir, our government is pushing back against US-based institutions who believe that they have power to defy our government because they are backed by the United States government. So we see, sir, there is some pressure from US, but India is pushing back, and now we do think that we have arrived at the world stage, and we can push back against nations who consider themselves mightier than everyone else.
Okay. So do you think that we are becoming subsidiary allied nation to USA now?
No, sir, we have our strategic autonomy. When we see that institutions like Quad are emerging, we cannot say that we have joined Quad under US pressure.
Our active participation in Quad is our own based on our own volition or under American pressure?
Sir, I believe it is based on our own volition, because Quad emerged as a significant body only when we were under Chinese pressure, only when we pushed for Quad. Unless we joined the Quad or unless we expanded the Malabar exercise, there was no Quad.
Okay. Turning to economy, when was this Reserve Bank of India established?
The Reserve Bank of India was established in 1935 under the Government of India Act. It was around that time that Reserve Bank of India was established.
So was it a fully government-owned institution or it was partly owned by the private
It
players?
was partly private. It was nationalized in 1949, I believe, sir.
So do you think that they enjoyed autonomy, policy autonomy, and before 1949?
To some amount, sir, they were politically autonomous.
In spite of the fact that they were not fully owned by the government, they enjoyed autonomy?
Due to the fact that they were not owned by the government, or they had an autonomy because
So today it is entirely owned by the government. So do you think that RBI is still autonomous?
I believe, sir, RBI is one of the institutions that is autonomous at present.
And which other institutions are autonomous along with RBI?
The Election Commission of India, there is UPSC, a lot of institutions are autonomous, but the autonomy in RBI is unparalleled, I believe, sir, as of present. But since independence, RBI is one of the most autonomous institutions in our country, and RBI works professionally and in an autonomous manner, unlike other institutions.
So when RBI formulates a monetary policy to reduce interest rate, how it benefits the government?
The government is the biggest borrower of our economy. If we see the fiscal deficit of the government is of the size of 12 lakh crore. So if the RBI reduces the interest rate, the government would borrow at a cheaper rate of interest. So fiscal deficit would come down.
And how it will affect the choice of entrepreneurs about the machines, whether labor saving machines they will prefer or capital saving machines they will prefer?
So when capital becomes
Capital becomes cheaper.
so they can go for labor saving machines.
It will necessarily reduce employment elasticity. That means it will generate less employment per crore investment.
We can say that.
So is it in favor of the people of India?
In some extent, sir, we see that if RBI do not reduce the interest rate, and the interest rate is very high, and the interest rate growth differential is very less. So we are not growing in the proper sense, sir. So we have to cut down the interest rate. We need entrepreneurs. Even if they are capital intensive, they are doing something for the economy.
So do you think that unemployment in India is growing because of low interest rate policy of the RBI?
There is no singular factor behind the growth of unemployment. So there are multiple factors that coalesce and lead to
Which are the
unemployment.
factors?
We can say, sir, lack of human capital development of the proper extent, lack of proper export policy that pushes our export, lack of development of the private sector, the fixation with government jobs in our country that we have. There are some cultural factors as well.
So why the government is lacking on so many fronts?
We cannot say that the government is lacking on all the fronts. The government is working to some extent, but the magnitude of the problem is very large. And these are some of the things are like that. We need long-term policies for that, such as education. We want to
How many long? How many years?
Total NSA said that 2041 should be the year that we should target.
So before that you should not hope that unemployment should reduce.
We should hope, sir, but it is the year that we should hope that we will we will have maximum employment. That is no
Okay,
employment.
thank you, Siddharth.
Siddharth, you're from Delhi.
Yes, ma'am.
How many districts are in Delhi?
There are 7 districts.
7 districts. Are you sure?
Exactly sure, ma'am. There are 7 members of parliament, so I thought that there would be 7 districts.
No. Okay, tell me, what is the population of Delhi?
Around 2 crore, ma'am.
Around? Okay, what is the sex ratio?
Don't know the exact figure, ma'am.
Okay, so your father is a journalist. So tell me, why nowadays media houses are working like business houses and journalists are working like businessmen?
There is the second phase in the development of Indian journalism, in which we see that journalism itself become a capital-intensive industry. You cannot make a journalistic house, a TV network without proper capital development, without proper capital support. So with big capital behind journalistic houses, they are behaving like businessmen because they are part of a professional entity that is run by a capitalist or someone with big capital.
So is it good for our country?
It is very bad for our country because the goal of journalism is to put truth before the people. And when your truth becomes dependent on who gives you money, that is problematic for the country. But as of present, we are seeing the rise of citizen journalists. So it would improve, I believe.
Okay. So recently, government has brought out a new post of CDS in defense services. So what is this?
The CDS is the Chief of Defence Staff. He is a 4-star general. He is tasked with bringing inter-service synergies. We have 3 services, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, and we have lack of synergy among them, which we witnessed during the Kargil War, in which the Air Force was not mobilized for 2 weeks. The Army was mobilized. So the Kargil War Review Committee said that a post of CDS be created for tri-service synergy. The CDS is tasked with creating theatre commands, inter-service synergy and headquarters, etc.
So from your DAF, I gather that you read books.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me, what is the last book you have read?
J. Krishnamurti's The Network of Thought.
The Network of Thought.
Yes, ma'am.
So explain it just to me in 20 seconds.
J. Krishnamurti says that our consciousness is not ours. We are part of the human consciousness and we must behave as such. The solution to all our problem lies in our consciousness. So we must analyze that. Not like collecting knowledge about our consciousness, but seeing our consciousness, observing it, observing the guilt, observing the fear, observing the doubt, observing the hurt that is in our consciousness, and then we have to get over it, and then we have to believe that we are part of the human consciousness, and we have to agree that thoughts that run our life, our life is run by thought according to Krishnamurti, and we have to see that thoughts are different than ourselves. They come and go, but we remain. We who are part of the human consciousness. So we must not be run by thought, but we must run thought. That is the gist of the story, that thoughts come and we just run after them. Desire comes that we want to become something like this, we want to earn 1 crore rupees, and we just run after that. Krishnamurti says that stop, look at yourself, look at your consciousness, and then act.
So is it related to your hobby, meditation?
Yes, it is directly related.
So what kind of meditation do you do?
There's a technique of meditation developed by Osho. It's called Nath Brahm meditation. I practice that.
Nath Brahm.
Nath Brahm.
So how is it different from other modes of meditation like Raj Yoga, Hatha Yoga?
Nath Brahm, ma'am, there is a music developed by Chaitanya Hari Luter. He was one of the lieutenant of Osho, and in that you produce a sound like that is the sound of the universe according to Osho. And for 30 minutes you are like humming. After that you sit calmly, your eyes are closed, you open your hand, you open yourself to the universe. After that you close your hand like this, you take the universe back into yourself, and then for 15 minutes you analyze your breathing and analyze how you are, what you are, how you are doing.
So Osho has been a very controversial figure in our history.
Yes, ma'am.
So can you tell me what is his philosophy, core philosophy?
Osho was a professor of philosophy, so his philosophy is as eclectic as himself. Osho, ma'am, is a filter. He puts across yourself every major philosopher, and he believes that every major philosopher and every enlightened man speaks in one language. His core philosophy is of the Advaita Vedanta philosophy that our country is the birthplace of. He believes that we are part of the human consciousness like Krishnamurti. He believes that we have a consciousness, that can be part of the supreme consciousness if we behave.
Okay, tell me, I was listening to your conversation with one of the board members. So you said that you took the decision of participating in civil services under your parents' pressure.
No, ma'am, I did not say that. I said that it was decided very well in the past that I would do that.
So it's one and the same thing. So they suggested you and you complied. So does it suggest that after your selection, if somebody suggests you with a force or with an authority, you will comply with the orders?
My father said that my family believed that I can become an IAS officer. My father said that you become what you want to become. I thought about becoming a writer, but then I saw that I have administrative acumen. I saw that the position of an IAS can be something in which all of my energies, all of my talents can be utilized, and then I chose the IAS. And when I join a service like an IAS, that is a public service, I would do what I can do to serve the public. I then would not comply with forces and orders of others. I would do what I have joined the service for them.
Okay, thank you.
Siddharth, when you were talking with sir, you told that large empires were built in the North India. Why is it so?
Because, sir, the North has one of the most fertile plains of the world, the Gangetic Valley. Fertile plains gives an empire resources. Every empire is built on resources. So when you can have a lot of land revenue and resources from the land, you can build an empire, you can build a large army, and you can expand yourself. And the North is connected to a lot of states. In the South, when you see a state, there is limited connection. In the North, you can be connected to Central Asia, you can be connected to China across the mountains. So the North has significant advantages as far as empire building is concerned.
Okay, very nice. Your name is Siddharth.
Yes, sir.
Could you compare Lord Buddha and Siddharth? Means if you find any similarities and dissimilarities.
I was named after Lord Buddha, sir. Buddha is the paragon of compassion, of love, and he was the progenitor of meditation and a lot of techniques. I believe, sir, the qualities that the Buddha possessed of love, of compassion, I also possess this quality. But the difference is merely of degrees. While the Buddha was the paragon of compassion, I am a little less compassionate, and I run behind desires and I get attached to things. But if I act with good sense, I can also become like a Buddha someday.
Good. Who founded Delhi?
Sir, the Tomar kings of Delhi were the founder of Delhi. Anand Pal Tomar is considered the founder of Delhi.
Okay, actually nowadays our government has taken decision to glorify the legacy of Tomar King Anand Pal II. How do you see this step of government?
Sir, I believe that Delhi was not built in one day or by one king. We see Delhi, there are 7 parts of Delhi historically. Delhi was enriched by the sultans of Delhi. Delhi was enriched by the Mughal kings. Shahjahan built the Shahjahanpur. So I believe, sir, history should not be used as a political weapon, should not be politicized. We must celebrate every historical figure. We must celebrate Anand Pal, but not at the cost of others. We must see that he was one of the rulers in the part of a series who built Delhi.
Okay. Nowadays Chandni Chowk is getting makeover. Could you tell us some history of Chandni Chowk, means who designed the Chandni Chowk and all that, if you know?
Shahjahan built the Shahjahanpur. It was a walled city, and his sisters Rosnara and Jahanara, they wanted to create a market. So there was this Neher, a canal that went from the imperial palace of Lal Killa, and in this Neher of the canal, the light of moon was directly shining. So this was the Chandni Chowk. It was the center of a market that Rosnara and Jahanara designed for Shahjahanpur. Around that there was Meena Bazaar, one of the greatest bazaar of India, in which a noble spent rupees 1 lakh at that time. So it was a market built by the sisters of Shahjahan.
Okay. You play football.
Yes, sir.
Why football is not as much as popular as cricket in India?
So cricket has a colonial legacy. Everyone knows cricket. Cricketer is very famous in this country. Cricket is shown 24/7 on the TV when there is a cricket match going on. But we do not see the similar case about football. There are no local clubs. There is no transparency. If I want a footballer, I cannot say that I would do this, and I would become a footballer. But if you want to be a cricketer, you know that you have to play Ranji, you have to play district, you have to play state, you will then go there. Second of all, sir, our Indian football team is ranked very low, around 104 in FIFA, whereas our cricket team is world champion in some aspects. So there are problems in football and every other non-cricket sports in our country that we grapple with.
Okay, your father is a political editor. It is alleged that our media institutions is biased in the favor of government. What is your opinion? What is your take on this?
So we see that the media does not act in vacuum. There would be pressure from the government, any government which is at center on the media. So there emerges some bias. We see during the reign of Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi, everyone believed that All India Radio and Doordarshan are biased. As of now, we are seeing that there is some pressure from government, but we cannot categorize media as only that which is seen on the television. We are seeing the rise of citizen journalists. We are seeing independent newspapers who criticize government day after day. And we are seeing that press freedom is present in India. We cannot say that every newspaper or every TV channel is biased. There are independent TV channels, there are independent newspapers, there are independent citizen journalists.
Okay, thank you. That's all from my side.
You are a history student, right? As I can see, and the historical quote that goes with the statement that history is the past politics, right? And the present politics is the history. If I do ask you, go back in the past politics and change the course of those past politics, so the history's course would be different. Name any three incident that comes into your mind.
That I would like to change, sir.
Yes.
Sir, one of the most thing I would like to change is the colonization of India. I would like Mir Jafar to stand by Sirajuddaula at Plassey. Second thing I would like is, sir, I would like to give credence to Bhagat Singh and the
One from modern history, one from medieval history, and one from ancient history.
one from medieval and ancient history. Sir, in the medieval history, I would like Aurangzeb to behave betterly, such that the glory of the Mughal Empire remains as it is. In the ancient history, I would like Buddha to be given proper credence that he deserved. We see that the post-Buddha rulers after Mauryas did not give that much respect to Gautam Buddha.
But it is generally believed that India's fame and its name in the world is mostly being credited to the Buddha's contribution to the world, peace and other things.
After the Guptas, the Buddhist philosophy was in decline. The rulers did not prefer the Buddhist philosophy.
I'm getting your point. Fine. Since you appear a number of the times for defense services, recently we have seen that Essential Defense Services Ordinance 2021 has come out. Almost 70,000 plus employees they have protested because of the corporatization the policies. What kind of the nature of the protest that is going on, and what the kind of the response that Indian government has put against it?
So the ordnance factory boards is not as efficient as a private corporation can be. So corporatizing ordnance factory board is a much needed reform. So we see that the government servants and the private servants, there is a large difference between them. The government servants have security of tenure. They cannot be easily, you cannot discontinue their services easily.
So right to strike has been negated to those employees. I mean to say they can't stage a protest against the government and all that, and heavy penalties have been imposed on that. What do you see the state response in this regard?
So there are some essential services that cannot be stopped. We cannot say that the army can strike tomorrow and say that we won't fight in Ladakh because our service conditions are not good. There are some essential services and they must work, like railways, like textiles. So their right to strike must be below public order or public service. They are servicing public, and in some essential services we cannot give them complete right to strike.
So it can be considered as a choking of the voices. It is simply in a plain manner, just like raising your voices.
So you can raise your voice in the newspaper.
That is not like in a violent manner. And Constitution of India gives the permission for that.
So, but there is some balance that we have to develop, sir. We cannot say that tomorrow the Delhi police can strike and say we won't work. We cannot say that the staff of the AIMS will not work from tomorrow. There are some essential services and they must work. If they intend to strike, if they intend to raise their voice, they can raise their voice in newspapers, they can raise their voice through social media channels. But if they say that we would strike at the present time when we are seeing a crisis in the northern borders and the ordnance factory says that we won't create ordinances, so how would we service our army?
Related with this, your father is a political editor.
Yes, sir.
World Freedom of Press Index, India has not done well. It's almost 142nd out of 180 countries. What kind of the impediments that you see that in India is facing in terms of raising the voice, or the freedom of expression through, you can say, verbal expression, or some through the press, media?
So we see the mainstream media. We can see that there is pressure from the government or pressure from industries. But we see the main work of media is done by the local journalist or the small newspapers or the small channels or the regional newspapers. These regional newspapers, they grapple daily with mafias. The local ground-based journalist, he fears for himself every day. And now political editor, my father is a political editor of a local newspaper, the national coverage. So when he writes politically very sharp or politically critical pieces, he fears for himself. He fears that there can be a retribution from those against whom he has written. So the fear of the press is in the ground reporters, in the citizen journalist, and those who intend to speak truth to power, and those who intend to do public service from the journalistic medium.
My last question to you. When the question comes for the contempt of the court, there is one principle that we call the Mulgaonkar principle. Are you aware of this?
Mulgaonkar
principle.
With respect to, sir?
Contempt of court.
I do not know.
Fine. Siddharth, I'm supposed to evaluate you, but unfortunately I missed your conversation with sir. Can you just give me chronologically the questions sir asked you so that I can work on that?
Sir asked me about the problems with development of navy in the ancient and medieval times. Why India did not develop a good navy. After that, sir asked me about the monetary policy of the RBI. That RBI is following a loose monetary policy, and what impact does that have on employment, and why government prefers loose monetary policy or expansionary monetary policy. Then sir asked me some other questions that I have
you cannot remember.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I have to evaluate you on the basis of your conversation with sir only, how much marks should I give you? I mean, not marks. How do you evaluate yourself on that?
I believe that I did give proper answers, but sir, one should not be judging in one's own case. That is the first
That is
principle.
natural justice, right? What are other principles of natural justice?
Sir, someone who you are going to punish should be given the opportunity to present his case. Both parties should
Right to be heard, fine.
Right to be heard, sir. There should be procedural fairness, and there should be reasonable fairness. There should be justice and fairness in the decision. I'm not of a law background, so I don't know all the principles of natural justice.
Fine, fine, Siddharth. It was nice talking to you, and we thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Your interview is over. You can go now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Fine. So, tell me, how was it? What are the areas you believe you did fine, and where you believe that you actually can do better?
सर नर्वस हो जाता हूँ थोड़ा सा मैं स्टार्टिंग करने में काफी.
Okay, but once you're settled, you're better?
Yes, sir.
That's the case?
Yes, sir.
See, our understanding is that you, in many areas, you're basically outstanding candidate. You're a very good candidate. Your personality is definitely very good. And the way you analyze things is wonderful. And let's go step by step. Your entry and exit are not the best. If I have to give you a few suggestions, I mean, your entry can be more smart and your exit can be more formal, both ways, right? Entry, the basic template of entry is that you loudly, in the audible sense way, you have to take permission of entry, right? From the person with whom your first eye contact is made, right? Depends, wo chair bhi ho sakta hai, koi aur bhi ho sakta hai. So may I come in or may I come in, madam, jo bhi sthiti hogi, loudly. Then you come, properly greet everyone, then ask for permission to sit down, or maybe they'll ask you to sit down, right? This is an entry level template that you have to follow. Similarly, in the exit, thank to the chair first and then to other members, wish them a good day and then move smartly, right? Iski rehearsal kar lijiye as much time as you can, right? You're a good candidate, your academics is good, your generally your sitting posture is good, voice level is good, and it has a certain sense of depth in analysis. So your voice in a sense is complementary to what you're speaking, which is very good. We have seen good voices, we have seen good analysis, but having both in the same person makes you valuable. So that part is very good, though your non-verbal communication is not the best. I mean, especially the hand movement, I'm sure you already know it, that you have a lot of vigorous hand movement. You can avoid that, because in a sense it affects the formal nature of communication in this kind of interview. So if you can avoid it, it will be good. I know the flies were really affecting a lot, but despite other than that also, there was a movement.
My hand moves, sir, a lot.
Yeah, a lot. So you can avoid it. Great idea is to place it like this. So, but then little hand movement will not hurt, but in your case it is more than a little, right? Then coming to other areas, your strength is abstract analysis. I'm still, I mean, we discussed in the board, I'm still not sure. Personally, I liked it a lot, and I'm sure that it will be your strength, but make sure that it is not going beyond a point. Abstractation, as you understand, is a very good thing. Generally, people like it, but administrators are supposed to be straight, right? Rather than you should be able to speak in concrete terms also. So have abstraction the way you are having, but make sure that you're not overdoing it. Bring it to the ground whenever required, right? Whenever analysis was there, be it history, be it media in general and other things, these were really good. Another suggestion I have is it has to do with your sentence structure, in which you make your sentence you-based, if you are so, right? I've been advising candidates for many years now that using this sentence structure drags a board member into it. Suppose you are a journalist, you'll be killed. This you thing you should impersonalize someone, right? Make it a third person rather than second person. That will make it more powerful, and board members will be a little insulated from it. Agar board members se kahoge ki aapko maar diya jayega, they'll feel like right. So you can work on that. Other things, I'm really happy. I see a very good candidate here. I see a very good, really bright chance of you getting through. Really good, right? Don't take it. Don't be more relaxed here. You keep working until your interview is there, but you're already prepared, right? All the best.
Thank you.
May I come in, sir? Yes, please do. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Please take your seat. Thank you, sir. You're Mr. Satyam. Yes, Satyam Gandhi. Yes. Satyam, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that you are sitting at around 12-13 feet from anybody in this room, right? Yes. You're at a safe distance. Yes. We have kept this arrangement to ensure that you feel safe and you can safely remove your mask, considering that you are at a safe distance, right? Please do. Thank you, sir. So, Satyam, comfortable? Yes, sir. Satyam, I would like to inform my fellow board members that Satyam is basically from Samastipur, Bihar. Yes, sir. I can also see that Satyam has done his graduation from University of Delhi in 2020. Yes, right? It was BA Honours in Political Science. Is there any other information you would like to share with the board? Sir, I completed all my schoolings from Kendriya Vidyalaya Haripursa in Bihar itself, and then I moved for the graduation in DU. And from the last year, I am preparing for civil services. I have done few internships during my college days and also worked as a freelancer. So, Satyam, I can see that you are barely eligible right now, right? You are around 21 years old. You completed your 21 years last month only. Considering that, I mean, I understand that you are eligible and that's why you're here. Yes. But if you leave the eligibility part things apart, don't you think that you're too young? You're too immature right now. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying it as a matter of disrespect.